Here's a fresh roadkill from last night that looks like it's been munched on by either a very, very hungry, thirsty quoll, and a rather large quoll, or a juvenile thylacine. I've seen many examples. This one still hasn't even gone fully, and look, something's had a go at the old kidneys in there too. I've seen many examples of the face chewed off of things that look like they've been attacked by thylas on the mainland with roos, and May's come in for a look. With roos and sheep especially, their face chewed off and their head ripped open, neck, whole bit. So this is either a really big quoll or a young male thylacine, I reckon. I reckon there's a young male thylacine up there, because this spot where I found this was also the spot where I found the paddy melon with its testicles removed, and then before that I found a possum that had been very thylacine kind of preyed on as well. But it could be a large quoll, but it's definitely not a devil because it's not torn to bits, so this is real specific. It wasn't eagles because this has happened last night, and it's nice and early when I've come through. They haven't even been there yet. It's way too early for them guys. No, this is different. And there's no blood anywhere, so it was either one of the two because it's drank all the blood. But anyway, I'm going to put this in front of our 24/7 wildlife camera and see what comes along for another munch. Beautiful big sassafras tree here. Some lovely myrtles and blackwoods. Absolutely stunning little bit of rainforest here. A little remnant around this hole. This is all part of the collapse here. You can see it just starts to steepen off really quick, goes straight down to the arch in the hole at the bottom of the sinkhole, way down there. So here I am with Guess at Trawada Arch, which is just a massive sinkhole that's formed in this basalt. I believe this is basalt. Just amazing myriad of little caves, and man, I bet the tigers liked it here once, and the blackfellas. What a cool spot. Awesome spot.
I've locked that away. Beautiful country. You don't see nothing here. There's a dip right where the shadows are.
That's where it was.
Right, yep, where the blue watercourse is. He's come from left to right. And so as at about here is when he would have gone to the other side.
Hello?
Dave!
Hello, who have I got?
It's Neil Waters from the Thylacine Awareness Group. How are you, mate?
Neil. Yeah, I'm pretty good.
Excellent.
Pretty good. Yourself?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Is it alright to chat for a few minutes?
Yeah, hopefully I'm in the car, but there's a fair bit of wind around today. It's sort of a bit blustery, but hopefully everything that you can hear.
No worries. Mate, thanks for agreeing to have a bit of an interview with me. What I wanted to do was if you could recount the day you had your sighting for me. I'm doing a bit of a video. I mean, I know we went out there last year and you showed me the area.
I've got a bit of audio from when we were actually there, and I just wanted to get a few details about that trapper's hut as well, because that was really interesting.
Yep. All right. Well, I can start with my sighting if you like.
Sure, go for it, mate.
It was February the 28th, 2018.
Yep.
And it was just a smidgen past, I think it was 3 in the afternoon. So summer, but in the afternoon the shadows were starting to be cast off the tea tree. So bearing in mind, so I was heading due east on a gravel road. I was at work, and I work in forestry. And I was checking plantations in an area behind Valentine's Peak in northwest Tasmania.
Okay, yep.
And I was going at speed. They're all private roads up through there. It's forestry roads, so it's sort of. And when I say speed, I was probably doing 80 kilometres an hour on a gravel road. Sure. So heading due east, I'd turned off the main truncating road, and it was a straight section of road. I'd actually had to go over a bit of a brow of a hill. Okay. And as I've come over the brow of the hill, and as I said, I was probably doing about 80, 90 kilometres an hour, I could see an animal just starting to cross the road ahead, and at that stage it was sort of about 80 to 100 metres ahead of me. And so as I've come over the brow of that hill, and obviously going quite fast, it really hadn't really noticed me for several seconds. And it was going from left to right across the road in front of me, and it was right near a stream side. So there was tree plantations either side of that stream, but where the animal was, it was native stream side, so tea tree and a bit of myrtle, and so native remnants, if you like, of forest. Yeah. And it looked when I first saw it, it was quite a weird sort of ambling gait. It was it almost looked like it was just a sad sack, like it was just sort of a very ambling sort of it just seemed to be not sprightly and with purpose. It was a very and it was sort of a real just lackadaisical. When it saw me, I could see it look up, and by this stage it was sort of hitting the centre camber of the road, and it looked up, and then straight away had this marsupial gallop to it. It was it was literally a gallop. Okay. And so. And that, as I was approaching closer and closer, obviously, I'd slowed down about the point when it looked up, but I was still obviously going quite fast. I wasn't going to put the skids on or anything. I was just slowing down. So all I could see, because the sun, in afternoon sun, it was casting a shadow from the north with the tea tree. So I couldn't see colour. All I could see was greys. Okay. So no, I couldn't see any stripes. Yeah. But I could see this quite a well-defined standout silhouette as it did its actions. Yeah. So bolt straight tail. Definitely not a cat or a dog. It couldn't be with its gait. It's just, I ruled that out straight away. I've been in the bush in Tasmania here for 15, 20 years now, with my work, and as you know, I live off the grid in a bush setting anyway, with plenty of tiger cats or tiger quolls, if you like, spotted tail quoll, and devils as well. So I know what the animals are around. We don't. It wasn't a fox. I've seen them in Victoria. I had a lot to do with them in Victoria. Wasn't a dog. Wasn't a cat. Wasn't a devil. The only possibility it possibly could have been, if you're thinking clinically about it, would be a spotted-tailed quail, a large male.
Yeah.
They are known to come out in the daytime, but it's how it cast a silhouette. It just wasn't a quail. So yeah. But yeah, I got a good look at the silhouette. Got a good look at two types of gait in its motion. And the other thing that sort of had me curious was that, you know, as the only sighting I've had, obviously heard about lots of sightings, but I was surprised at how the size of it. It wasn't as big as what you have paint a mental picture of.
Okay, so it quite possibly could have been a juvenile one then, you think?
Juvenile or maybe a female, but you know, it was shorter. It was all in the right proportions with an extremely long tail for its body and straight. But it was, yeah, it certainly wasn't. You know, it was more like I guess a kelpie size, or smaller even than a kelpie. It wasn't a big thing.
Okay. So you saw it crossing the road. Was it sort of side onto you the whole time, or did it turn and run towards you at all?
It was side on for most of it, other than just when I could so noticeably see it just glance towards me, not without turning, but just glance to see the oncoming car, and that locked it into gear to go at a gallop. But other than that, it was just a side-on shot of it.
Okay. And in total length, how long do you think you saw the animal for? What sort of time?
Probably no more than 4 seconds, I would say.
Okay. And
yeah, you know, it didn't loiter around. Once it saw me coming, it really, you know, it got started.
So what was, after it disappeared from sight, what was the immediate thought that popped into your head?
I straight away, it sort of had disappeared into the stream side scrub, probably about, I don't know, 3 seconds prior to me pulling up to that spot.
Okay, yep. So it was.
And I drove, put the car off the road, and got out and had a look. But it was looking for sort of any footprints or anything, any sort of tangible things that it left.
Yeah.
But no, it was peaty, tea tree covered, leaf covered, spongy stuff. There was nothing that it could hold a footprint. And the road was gravel, the road verge was gravel, so there was just, and when I went into the scrub area there, it was just a labyrinth of different animal runs. Like it wasn't just one defined
it could have taken any
run
one
going
of those.
through. There was 4 or 5 different tracks crisscrossing all through that 5 metre section.
Okay.
So there was nothing defining that I could really sort of pin down to look for. Straight after that, I actually rang one of my superiors, and he sort of didn't discount it, but you know they're not. He played a pretty straight bat, and that was that. But I'd made the phone call more so to log it in my own mind. I think of the time and date.
Yeah. And what you believe you saw was a thylacine?
I truly believe I saw one. I think, as you said, I think it was it was a younger animal. It certainly was. It was in good shape. You know, I certainly my description of it when I first saw it being quite lackadaisical. It wasn't a reflection of its physical look. It was just didn't seem to be moving with any real purpose. It was sort of it really was lackadaisical.
Okay. Did you chat about this to many other people other than your immediate supervisor, or you just sort of kept it to yourself, or?
No, I mentioned it to a few people, and it turns out that there was a logging crew that had seen in 2016 in that area, I think one if not two tigers during the day there as well. So the whole of that area is, as much as it's all plantations now, it's the headwater area for several of the main rivers in the northwest of Tasmania. So it's sort of a marshy moorland natural grass area that's all interconnected, and so there's still huge scope for all the wildlife to still be there. You know, it's wombat central. There's all the creatures that you expect to find in Tasmania live in that area quite happily in abundance. Okay,
so there's plenty of game there for a predator like a thylacine to be in the area.
Totally. It's you only have to look at these roads aren't normally accessible by the public, and even with that, we've got quite a lot of roadkill, unfortunately, which is a fair indicator of the numerous animals running around.
Sure. Now, you said there's probably been a few other people that you know of that have had sightings out your way, because you're out in the northwest.
Yeah, look, there's been, none of them get publicised normally, but there's been quite a few over the years of farmers that talk amongst themselves. In actual fact, it was one I don't think I told you about at the time I talked to you previous, probably going back. It's probably 15 years ago now, so it was a while ago, but it was fairly indicative of the attitude. There was a farm forestry tour, a group of budding farm foresters who were down Woolnorth Way, so in the far northwest of Tasmania, and it's Woolnorth is a they've set it up as multiple dairy farms on quite a large swathe of that corner of the island. I don't know whether there's up to eight dairy farms now on it and still land to burn. But they were showing and telling it was all about wildlife corridors and leaving remnant scrub, if you like, and fencing it off to allow the wildlife to move around. And it was interesting because there was I wasn't at the. It's all secondhand from what I heard, but I heard from one of the foresters talking about it, and he was there, and there was probably about 20 people there watching the talk, and next thing you know, there's this animal about 150 metres up the fence line from where they're standing, hopped out through the fence, and of course it had stripes, it had the right colour, had the right gait, and couldn't get back through the fence easily once it saw them, and so it squirmed a bit and hopped back in the very wildlife corridor they were talking about.
Great demonstration. So all of those people saw it, and that went unreported.
Yeah, and to boot, there were two private foresters there as well. So
that sounds classic Tasmanian tiger sighting in Tasmania.
Yeah,
it really does.
It's certainly we're an interesting mob, that's for sure. There's no two ways about it.
So, Dave, I just wanted to ask you about that history of that trapper's hut that we went to that day, because that really fascinated me. It was actually, a really interesting bit of history, I suppose. The fur trapping trade, for all intents and purposes, was a bit barbaric in many ways, but it's a part of the culture of Tasmania and mainland Australia. And there was some interesting times, I suppose, had for the trappers of the old days, and it was a dying trade back up until the 1980s when it got banned. But what do you know about that little hut out there?
Look, it's the whole area. It's not. It's quite a big area at elevation. I think the whole that plateau is sort of around about 600 metres above sea level, and so that there's 3 or 4 different marshes that start. I think it's like 3 rivers going into Bass Strait. So 3 of the major rivers in the northwest coast, pretty much their headwaters start in that area.
Yep.
With all the meltwater and just the rain that historically it got. So it's that area never was, certainly in European history, never was heavily timbered. There was patches of big timber, but it was more native grass moorlands, if you like.
Okay, yep.
The Aborigines there fire stick farm that quite meticulously and certainly fooled the early explorer / surveyors there into thinking it was natural.
Yeah, okay. So they manicured it for their own hunting, I suppose.
Yes, it was. Don't quote me, but I think there was 3 different tribes that used to culminate in that area, 2 from the west and 1 from the east.
Okay.
And so it would have been a corroboree / trade / whatever in that area, and the artefacts tend to support there was quite a lot of comings and goings there. But getting back to that hut, so I can't be sure exactly when it was built and who built it. I'd have to really sit down and study it. So certainly I would be able to find out, but I have a sneaking suspicion that yes, certainly in the latter half of its use, from probably like after World War II through to the end of the fur trade, it probably was primarily a fur trapper's hut.
Yeah.
But I have a sneaking suspicion probably it was originally built as a Highland cattle run sort of
so like a grazier's hut.
Yeah, I think I know back in the day the VDL company, Van Diemen's Land Company, that had all that country, basically a fair amount of the northwest coast of Tasmania allocated to it. They were keen to make a buck in that country once they realised that the country didn't support domestic sheep and cattle very well because of the winters.
Yep.
And the grass quality. So
they had to look at alternative industries.
Yeah, so obviously they spawned a timber industry, and then in the vicinity but outside their boundaries that they claimed, mining was up and running fairly quick smart, certainly at Waratah, Mount Bishop. There was lots of base metal commercial grade finds of ore all around their pegged allotment, but not on their grant.
Okay.
Which I think frustrated them. But at the end of the day, they then decided to get punters to either buy or lease parts of their allotment that they couldn't find any other use for. And I imagine back in the early days, this hut could well have been built as for that reason originally.
Yep. Where we were out the back there that day, you could see all the nails along that timber where they would have been stretching out all the hides, yeah?
Yeah, and I think I did point out the part that was collapsed was a skin drying room, which I think a lot of the trappers, certainly in Tasmania, had developed a unique room, if you like, for drying their skins around a fire.
Okay. Yep.
Because of the dampness. So I think what was collapsed was probably, or partially collapsed, was probably what that was.
Yep. No, it was
not being an expert, but
sure, it was just a really interesting highlight of the day when we went out there that day. I just really enjoyed it.
It's certainly interesting when you see all obviously they had hound dogs and whatever else, and you see all all their inverted commas kennels,
Sure.
where they've got 44-gallon drums on their side with chains or whatever else. It was sort of
crude and rudimentary.
Yeah, there was obviously, I don't know whether each dog had his own name attached to the can. I don't know, but it's a bygone era for sure. You know,
It's a bit of that local history that sadly gets lost, I suppose, when these old timers pass on.
Yeah, totally. It's sort of it still has magic, even though it's all deserted now. You can certainly really feel into what potentially went on in that area.
Back in the day.
It's like it seems a lot of Australia, these landscapes are timeless.
Yeah, and the stories are in the landscapes, not necessarily the people.
That's right.
And that ties in with a lot of that Aboriginal culture too, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, and even after they'd moved on, certainly in the days they were running cattle up into the 80s in that area.
Yeah.
They were trying to make it a grazing run. It's just that it wasn't particularly
good
viable
fodder
for them, and
yeah.
hence it all turned into forestry in the finish. That was the enigma of that place. It had such huge potential, they thought in the beginning. Hence they staked their claim on it, but it could never pay its way as a pastoral lease, and hence they had to rape and pillage the timber, and then tried to look for minerals and couldn't find enough of that, and it was only in the modern era where they've put in a whole lot of plantation and stuff
where it has commercial
to replace what was native.
Yeah.
They're trying to make $1 that way, and it's sort of certainly that country it's marginal still because of the coldness.
Well, it's good to know that there's at least one tiger wandering around in there still looking for a wallaby to eat.
Well, certainly 4 years ago there definitely was.
All right, mate.
Much for now, but nothing much has changed. I think, and certainly I've growing up, having a bit to do with foresters back in my childhood there, through my father, and even the old fishing tales of people I used to work with when they used to hop the gate up there and go and go fishing in the lagoon up there. There were several stories of inverted commas lost fishermen who drove a little bit too far to the east of that estate, only to run into a pair of tigers like at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, and, okay.
It's quite it's not uncommon to hear the stories if you have the ear and ear to listen.
Yeah, awesome. All right, mate. Well, look, I look forward to coming out and catching up with you again soon. And
cheers, likewise.
Once I free up a bit of time out this way, I've got to get all these cameras sorted again. We'll definitely try and catch up and chew on a bit of lamb, maybe.
Maybe so.
All right, mate. Well, thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it.
No worries. Take care, Neil.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave.
Get here.
Cheers,
here.
Bye.
Leave him alone. Oi. Come here. Come here. Here. Eagle. You just heard one.